Welcome to Better Odds Sports Betting. Here's our hosts, Kev O'Neill and Kyle Hunter.
What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Better Odds Sports Betting. Getting near the end here of the Sweet 16, and sorry to throw everybody off here. I do have my Cubs stuff on, so I'm going to a spring training game afterwards, my third spring training game this year. It's a ton of fun down here in Arizona to do it, but we have a wonderful guest in Dylan at Dilberto's Picks here to talk about the massive Sweet 16 and touch on the Elite Eight tomorrow. Dylan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, doing very well. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to come on. I came on for some college football earlier in, I think it was August or September, and that was a lot of fun. So glad to be back, and thanks for having me.
No problem. It's always fun to talk. And my partner in crime, Kyle Hunter, right here, having a fantastic March Madness. Kyle, how you doing?
Oh yeah, it's a lot more fun when you're cashing in so well. 13-1 in the last 14 plays.
Wow.
It's been a fantastic March. And guys, I have to say, last night's action in the Sweet 16, how could you top that? Like, I could not get myself chilled out to fall asleep last night. So I'm a little weary tonight. Hopefully maybe the early game's the best game tonight, because I get a little too fired up at the end of those games. What a finish. Gonzaga and UCLA. I didn't even have any money on that. I do have a Gonzaga future. But Gonzaga, I thought they were blowing that at the end, and then Julian Strother with the three. What kind of amazing drama. The NCAA tournament comes through every year.
Oh, right. It was amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's I did have Gonzaga, so I also had them in my bracket, and to win it all. So I'm like hanging on a thread here. At first I thought I was toast in the first half, and then Mick Cronin slowed it down for some reason. I don't know, but also they had some depth issues for sure. We knew that. And I was like, then they choke out an 8-point lead. Timmy's missing both his free throws. The other guys are missing their free throws. And you knew the 3-point was coming. It's like you knew it. And then Strother takes a Suggs-like shot at the end that happened against UCLA a couple of years ago in the Final Four, if you guys remember, and wins it like that. But he actually was going from losing to winning, which was massively clutch. And I thought that Tyga Campbell had a semi-decent look at the end too to tie it. That would have been more just heart-scratching. So this was the end of a 3-game parlay as well for me. So I was hedging at the end, and I was all over the place trying to middle it. It was fun, but it was great drama. I think that the officials did keep it close themselves, and that's what happens sometimes. But it was a wonderful game, wonderful weekend. Michigan State, Kansas State game also blew away expectations. Dylan, what are your thoughts?
No, yeah, yesterday it's going to be kind of hard to keep up with that today. I'm hoping we have some exciting games today, but yeah, that ending of that UCLA Gonzaga game was unreal. I actually was driving home from dinner, and then I got home, turned it on really quick, and then I saw UCLA tied it, and I was like, wait, UCLA's going to pull this off? I was literally just checking. They were down like 10 with 2 minutes left or something crazy. And then Strother pulls up from like half court, it seems like, and it's unreal. It makes sense why they're doing that, because they were dominating the offensive glass like all game, it seemed like. But unreal. I did not expect that to be the play that they drew up for that, but they pulled it off. So
I agree.
Unreal.
Well, let's bust into what we have today. Then hopefully there's some viewers watching, so they could get excited about what we have going on today. I do have a few plays that I'm going to share with. Obviously, some are reserved for our clients, but let's get right into it here, and I'll share my Betfred odds screen. We're going to start with San Diego State versus Alabama. Alabama is about a 7.5-point favorite here on the Betfred odds screen. The total is down to 137.5. Kyle, you want to get started with this one?
Yeah, let's. What do we have here for the live line here, Kiev?
137.5 for the total, minus 7.5 for the side on Alabama.
All right, so here's the thing. Numbers grab-wise, I have to take San Diego State for at least something. Alabama's a great team. They're favorite for a reason to win the championship, especially with the bracket that they've been given, right? Compared to the other side, think of the teams that Gonzaga is going to have to play if they get all the way to the title game compared to what Alabama would play. Alabama will have to get upset in a big way to lose at this point before the final game. Having said that, I think 7.5 points is a lot given the total of 137.5 and given the San Diego State defense being this good. I think Alabama's offense has been inconsistent. We know Miller can take over a game at any point, but Alabama has not been running away and hiding in every single game throughout the course of the season. And the 2 games that they've played in the NCAA tournament, I mean, sure, they've played well, but they haven't really been tested. Maryland's not a good team, especially compared to the defense that they're going to see in San Diego State. Now, San Diego State on offense is the question. Are they going to do enough on offense to stay in this game? I realize that, if Bradley's not making his shots, if Trammell's not playing well, then they could get run out. But this kind of defense that's a top 5 or 6 defense in the country in San Diego State on a neutral floor against an Alabama team that is very good, but I think they might be a little bit overvalued in the marketplace at this point. Everybody's taking Alabama. They blew away Maryland in that second half. The Big Ten wasn't very good. The Big Ten's out of the tournament already. Not any really good team in the Big Ten. But, San Diego State plus 7.5 points. Guys, that's a lot for a team that's number 1 on Haslametrics and 3-point defense. Alabama's going to put up a lot of threes. They're going to have contested threes here. If they make them, then they're going to win and cover. If they don't make them, I think there's at least some chance for an upset here. I've seen worse bets than plus 310 on San Diego State money line here. So that's the way I'd be looking at this game. I don't know. We'll see what you guys think on this one.
Dylan, what are your thoughts on this? And shout out to Jeffrey Buffin. Looks like a Dylan fan chiming in here and talking about Zags first half over. So kind of bucking the trend with the Zags.
Right. No, I'm glad to hear you say that, Kyle, because I am feeling exactly the same way. I think 7.5 is a lot for these 2 teams, especially when you look at Alabama. Most of their best performances on the year are at home. All of their losses are either on neutral floor or away this season. And one of the things that I also look at, which is not as much of a thing as it used to be in the past, but is experience on these teams. So Alabama is a very young team. Most of their key guys, I think they have one guy in I can't remember his name, but they have one senior who's essentially like their main leader, but everyone else is a sophomore, freshman on that team. And when you look at San Diego State, all of their 5 main guys are 4 of the 5 are seniors. One of them is a junior. And then looking at their coach, Brian Dutcher, he has quite the history as a coach. Obviously, everyone knows he was behind Steve Fisher for quite some time. Coached at Michigan. I think that experience comes to play today. I'm not sure if they're gonna win and upset them, but I think that 7.5 is a lot, especially with Nathan Mensah. He's put on really good numbers this year. Definitely trending in the right direction. 5th-year senior, I believe, and I think him and Miller. That's gonna be a great matchup to watch. As well as Ladie on San Diego State came over from TCU, I believe it was. And he's been actually playing pretty well as a 5th, 6th guy or a 6th, 7th guy off the bench. So I think San Diego State can keep it close, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they pulled off the upset here today. So, but you're right about the threes. If San Diego State can limit the threes, I think this will be a much, much closer matchup. So, all
right, no, good stuff. I think you're talking about Javon Quinterly or Sears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quinterly's a senior. He plays a little less minutes than Sears does. I agree. We have agreement across the board here, and there's a couple main things you need to look at here. It's first of all, Alabama out talents everybody, and they play fast, and they're just too big. They grab rebounds, but now they're playing another team that out talented people at least in the Mountain West. Now they're not. They're finally matching a team that's probably better talented wise, but they also have a great defense. Just looking at Haslametrics here, there's no matchup advantage for Alabama just based upon the strong defense San Diego State has, and Kyle hit it right there. Number 1 in 3-point defense. You know why number 1 in 3-point defense is key? Because if you go to Alabama and see how many 3 points per field goal attempts, it ranks 8th in the nation. So Alabama's chucking up threes, and if they're going to be defended well, this could spell upset city for Alabama. Now, it's a large spread here. Not even any of the efficiency sites have it that big. I know that Ken Palm's got it more of a 6-point spread. Haslametrics has it about a 5-point spread. And if you look on Bar Torvik, it's a 3.6 point spread. I like the 7.5. I think we have agreement. And that's my free play. We're going to take San Diego State for a couple stars at 7.5. Let's move on to the next game then. We'll pull up our Betfred odds here. And Miami versus Houston. Houston is minus 7.5. Total is 139. Now, I looked at Kyle's bracket, and I'm really interested to hear what he has to say for this one, being that he might have one of these guys winning it all.
Yeah, I filled out several different brackets, Kiev, and Houston was my winner in several. Gonzaga was my winner in a few. I think I might have picked Alabama to win one, Texas to win one. You got to have a little bit of diversity there. I honestly, I have to say too, the family brackets are interesting because my daughter, who's 6, picked some of these ridiculous upsets. She has Princeton in the Sweet 16, and she looks like an absolute genius at this point. I'm thinking she liked the Tiger. She thought the Tiger was really neat. So nice job with picking the mascot, the Tiger. On this one, I think Houston's just a consistent team as far as what they do in the NCAA tournament. I know they were a bit inconsistent in the regular season. Kelvin Sampson's team has been able to win, get to at least the Elite Eight or the Final Four several times now. I think that they're a balanced team. The problem with Miami is they kind of live or die by whether Wong is making his jump shot. He's definitely a really good player, and I mean, he could blow it up and have an amazing game here. But he's put up 153 so far this year. He also shoots a lot of twos. 248 2-point jumpers, 48.4% on those. So not great efficiency. Nigel Pack's going to put up plenty of threes. I do think Houston's defense is on another level from what Miami has been seeing throughout the course of the season. Miami, the ACC is way down as well. We can talk about the Big Ten being down. The ACC is way down as well. I think Miami is really well coached, and that makes this a bit tricky. Larinaga has made very good runs himself. Very good coaching matchup here. Now, Kiev, I would have wanted to bet Houston in this game, but 7.5 is a ton of points to lay. So I can't lay 7.5 points. I don't know what to bet in this game. I'm hoping you guys have a stronger opinion. I know Kiev's not as high on Houston as I am, so maybe he's liking the other side. I don't know. But as far as the total too, I would say that this is a pace war. Houston wants to slow the game down. Miami wants to play quick. If you like Miami, you probably like the over. If you like Houston, you probably like the under.
Nice lead in. Yeah, Kiev. I guess I have been throwing some shade at Houston a little bit throughout the year. And I mean, if they make it to the finals, my brackets are probably busted. But what I will say about this spread is I really do believe that Houston does win this, Kyle. I think that at the end, they do have enough to get through. But I also think that this is too many points for a team like Miami, who has, Elite Eight experience from last year, right? They went very far last year in the Big Dance, as well as a really good backcourt. Now, you did mention Wong. The problem is the ACC wasn't as good this year, and we all know that. They were the second best team in the ACC, but is it that much worse than the American Athletic Conference? Probably not. One thing I don't like about Houston is their consistency, Kyle. On Haslametrics, they rank 343rd in consistency. While Miami's a pretty consistent team, I think Miami just kind of keeps it close here. I would certainly lean the plus 7.5 in this situation, but I will say that I bet Sasser is fine now, and I bet Houston is at full strength. They have a lot of motivation to play the Final Four in Houston this year. Lean Miami plus the points. Dylan, what are your thoughts?
Wow, it sounds like we're all going to be on the same side on every play. But so I actually lean Miami as well. I'm not so confident in them having an upset. Like, I'm more confident in the Aztecs of upsetting Alabama with these big spreads. But the reason why I like Miami to keep it close in this one is because of the fact that Houston actually doesn't do too great of a job in terms of keeping their opponents from the free throw line. And I think that this could be a huge factor in keeping the game close towards the end. And looking at their last game, Houston playing Auburn, looking at the final score, it looks like quite a blowout, which it was. But one of the things that kind of killed Auburn is that they had a lot of free throw chances, and they only shot about 50% from the stripe.
Right.
Which, if you look at the math, if they shot about 90, they would have lost by like 3 or 4. I mean, 90 is a lot to ask for, but 50 is also very low for free throws, in my opinion. So I think with Miami's ability to get to the free throw line, they are 18th in the nation in free throw percentage. If they're able to get to the stripe, I think that they'll keep this game close. And then also looking at the rebounding battle. So looking at Omir, I always have trouble saying his name. He's one of the best rebounders in the nation on Miami. And I think that if he's able to dominate the boards, which they're going to need him to do, that if both of those components add up, then I think Miami can keep it close, keeping Houston from those second chance scoring opportunities, which they're very good at doing. They're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the nation. So I think Miami can keep it close, but it just depends if they're able to perform or not. So I like Miami with the points.
All right. Well, there you go. A little bit more agreement that this is too big of a spread here. Let's move on to Princeton versus Creighton. Creighton -10. Total is 141. Let's stay right here with Dylan on this game.
So in this one, I'm not taking a side, but I mean, I like Creighton to win, but I don't know about 10. 10's kind of a lot of points, but I'm not going to be touching that. The one play that I really do like in this one is actually the first half under. Looking at Princeton in the last few games, you've noticed that they've tried to take control of the tempo. They've been slowing it down quite a bit over the last few games during March Madness. Both teams are top 6 in the nation in defensive rebounds per game. So limiting those second chance putback opportunities. I like both of these teams to do a good job at that today. And neither team really gets to the free throw line often. So I think this game might start pretty slow. The total's pretty high for the full game, but I like that under 64.5 for the first half. And neither of them are also good at offensive rebounding. They're both like mid-pack in offensive rebounding. So I like this to be a lot of long possessions based on Princeton and how they're trying to slow the game down, and then not really many second chance opportunities. So I like that first half under in this one, under 64.5.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to Princeton, but I'm smart enough to know that this is a pretty big spread in this situation. And I'm sure these kids know as well. One thing about this matchup here, I think most of the efficiency sites have it 8 or 9. I really was impressed with Princeton's near proximity defense against the big guys in Arizona. Now, was it a little fluky? Maybe. I mean, they don't have a great field goal percentage at 133rd in the nation, adjusted for strength of schedule. They don't have a great 3-point percentage here, but if they slow this game down and ugly it up, I think they're going to have that shot as well for an upset here. Princeton's near proximity defense ranks 18th in the nation here on Haslametrics. Now, is that true being in the weak Ivy League? Maybe not, but it's not exactly like 50th. It's probably in the 30s in my opinion. And I hated how Creighton performed without Kalkbrenner when he was hurt. So the path to victory is slowing it down, uglying up, take Kalkbrenner out of the game. And I think they have a puncher's chance here to keep this game close. I think Creighton's themselves have a pretty good defense, but this is an interesting Creighton team that, has been playing more in the half court than they have been playing in the full court. I mean, they rank 135th in average possession length for Greg McDermott teams. That used to be a lot, higher back in the day. I remember in 2021, they ranked 44th in average possession length, 69th in 2020. So they've slowed it down a little bit and play a little bit more of the half court. So Dylan, I really like that first half under here. I might be joining you on that. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could disagree. I think we're going to have to disagree on one of these. Let's see if we do coming up. But I do like the first half under as well. I think the total in general is pretty high. Princeton's going to stall. We know what they're going to do here. They know that they have to slow the game down. Look at what happened in the Princeton-Missouri game. That game finished at 63 possessions. And if you watch the end of that game, for about the last 2.5 minutes, Missouri was fouling nonstop, keeping the game going, down 15 points. And it led to 58 points or something being scored in the last 10.5 minutes of a game that was really low scoring before that. Now you got Creighton, who is a much better defense than Missouri, no doubt about that. Creighton's very good defensively. I think this is the best defense that Greg McDermott has ever had at Creighton. Kalkbrenner is kind of a cheat code when it comes to having a good defense in the interior, certainly. And, Dylan was talking about the fact that neither team's very good on offensive rebounds, and both of these teams are excellent defensive rebound wise. So Creighton is 13th in defensive rebounding percentage in the country, and Princeton is 7th. Now, Princeton, I think you could at least question whether they're the 7th best based on who they've played, but they're a good defensive rebounding team. Creighton's a really good defensive rebounding team. Neither team fouls very much. So the way that you get an over in a game like this is Creighton just starts nailing all kinds of threes. Certainly possible. If not, Princeton hangs around. They slow this game down. If we think it's going to be a lower scoring game too, it's hard to not at least lean toward Princeton plus the points, getting that many points. I think Creighton will win. This is not one that I would want to bet much on a money line if you wanted to do something like that. But I would say Princeton plus the points, a lean, and I do like Dylan's thoughts there on the under too.
I think we're all going to be visiting the window on that one. Good look there, Dylan. I like it a lot. I guess we'll see if we're going to disagree on this next game then, because we haven't had much agreement. Texas is the up against Xavier, and I think they're playing in the same as Houston out in the Midwest, right?
Kansas City,
yeah, Kansas City. So this is an interesting game because I personally think Xavier's a little bit fraudulent, coming in here. Texas surprised me. Now here's the thing: I switched Texas for Gonzaga to win it all. I don't know why I did that. If I could redo it, I would probably put UConn or Texas in there. But Texas has been a lot better of a tournament team than I suspected. They were bad away from home and actually away courts, but they've certainly, looked good in their own tournament, and they have had a pretty easy road so far to success. What shocked me about Texas is I'm not so sure that Rodney Terry isn't better than their old coach, that got pretty much canned. He's doing a great job. And what showed that is when they played Colgate, they guarded them in the perimeter. That's all you needed to do to beat Colgate, is stop them from shooting threes. That's why that game went under. That's why they had an easy win, by 20 points here. The Penn State was a little bit tougher, but I expected a lot out of Penn State, being that it had Jalen Pickett and a great guard. That they had control of that game the whole time. Xavier themselves, we can't forget that they lost Fremantle earlier this year. Their 6'9" guy that was their best player. Now they still have Jack Nunge. Nunge is fantastic. But look at this route. Kennesaw State and Pittsburgh is who they played. I'm not so sure that Kennesaw State's better than Fairleigh Dickinson at this point, the way Fairleigh Dickinson's been playing. So they had the easiest road. And Texas, I think, has a pretty easy road right now themselves. I laid the 4 with Texas, and it's up to 4.5 now. And I would probably lay that again. I think Texas in both facets of the game, top 15 in offensive efficiency, top 15 in defensive efficiency. I like Texas. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
Don't know what to do with the side. I think Texas will win in a game like this. The Big East has played well in the tournament, so it's hard to discount them completely. I think Texas is a better team. If I were forced to bet a side, I think I would bet Texas. Certainly like it better at 3.5, 4 than 4.5. You're getting a little bit tricky getting up there to that point. I think I would bet the over if I had to bet something on a total in this game. You guys know I'm usually an unders better. I like unders. They've done better for me long term, but I think Xavier pushes the pace in a game like this, and Xavier's defense is a really weak defense, especially without Fremantle. Nunge is basically the only guy. If you saw the types of shots that teams were getting against them in the first games, I mean, Kennesaw State was scoring at will for a long time. Kennesaw State kind of, I think they got a bit nervous when they had the lead there, and then Xavier made a run. Probably should have won that game, Kennesaw. And then Pitt's not a very good team. It's hard to take too much from a game like that. But Xavier, 72 possessions against Kennesaw State, 77 against Pitt. I think this is going to be a pretty fast-paced game too. Texas has plenty of guys who can make that three-point shot. Dylan Dessou has been playing really well down low. I think he's really broken out in a big way. Nunge is basically Xavier's only big defensive guy. And I think Xavier will score with Soli Boom and some of those guys. Kunkel's a pretty good player as well. To me, I don't see defense having a lot of success in a game like this. Xavier's going to put up a lot of threes. Do they make them? I would lean Texas and lean over.
All right. I would not bet the under in this game. Dylan, what are your thoughts? Maybe you'll bet the under. You're muted still, buddy.
Muted.
My bad. So this is one that I took the most time to like really try to dig into, and it's a tough one for me. It was my least confident in terms of leans on this one, but I do lean Texas because of the fact that they're able to play much better defense, as we know, than Xavier. Xavier doesn't really play defense. I mean, they do, but not where they need to be to win this whole thing. So I do like Texas with the points because of the fact that they've been playing very, very well. Earlier in the year, there was kind of signs where we were questioning, like, is this Texas team legit? But the last few weeks, they've looked very, very good. And you guys make some great points. But I do like the first half under in this one. I'm sorry, but I do. It's high. It's at 70 right now. I think this is one of those ones where Xavier knows that if they're going to get into a track meet with Texas, they're probably going to lose because of the fact that they don't have the defense to stop Texas. While Xavier, I mean, they're obviously good at offense, but having issues going against this Texas defense, which they've shown great signs against, especially going against good offenses in the Big 12. I think that this is more of one where they're going to want to focus on more effective possessions on offense rather than just quick scoring. But definitely not my most confident lean in this one, but I do like Texas with the points and might have to play that first half under because it's ugly, and that's why I like it.
It is one of those ones that it's hard to get to the window, but once it does, you feel smart when it cashes, because it goes against, lots of people's thoughts about how they watch these games, so I find that very interesting. Penn State was 8 for 23 from 28 from 3. Shot quality had that game even despite Texas's win. Would that give you pause in Texas in this game? Can Xavier shoot better from 3 than Penn State? Well, it wouldn't give me as much pause just because I think that Texas has a decent 3-point defense, and maybe that's why. Texas ranks 22nd on Haslametrics in opponent 3-point percentage, which is really good. It's not elite like San Diego State and Alabama, who both break great from there, but at 22nd, I mean, you see that they guard the perimeter, and the way it doesn't surprise me that Penn State wasn't able to shoot a 3. So that's my answer. Kyle, any different answer?
And I mean, I think Penn State's a pretty good team, and Penn State, shooting 8 for 28 from 3 tends to make me think that Texas was contesting those shots pretty well. Jalen Pickett had a lot tougher time in that game than he's had in any of the other games. I think Texas's pressure on defense. Remember, Pickett had several turnovers in that game after he had 0 turnovers the game before. Can Xavier shoot better from 3 than Penn State? That's certainly very possible. They still might not cover even if they shoot better than Penn State did. I think both teams score a decent amount here. I don't know if I love that first half under that Dylan has there on that one. So maybe that's our first sign of a little bit of disagreement. But having said that, the NCAA tournament, taking those high unders in the first half has been a good angle to go towards. So it's hard to disagree too strongly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm not taking the over. I'm just not. I'm not going to bet the over though. I'm not that far. It's not like, all right, we're going toe to toe. Well, Dylan, why don't you have the floor on the next game then? And that was, by the way, that question was from Michael Lucera. Thank you, Michael. We got some Elite Eight action already. Gonzaga versus UConn. It looks like UConn is about a 2-point favorite here. Total on this game is 153.5. Where are you going to go with this one, Dylan?
The total is very high, but I like UConn in this one. They are really putting everything together. Earlier in the year, kicking off conference play, I was questioning UConn because of the fact that they lost like 8 out of 10 in a certain span of their schedule in conference. But the last few games, I was looking at some of the March Madness statistics, and they're ranked number 1 in 5+ categories based on like rebounding, 3-point percentage, like a bunch of different stats you can look at. Their offense or their team in whole is clicking right now. And because of the fact that they have a much, much better defense than Gonzaga, I think this is one that UConn can pull out, especially with that Timmy versus Sonogo. I think Sonogo is going to be able to handle Timmy in this one, because in a lot of the matchups with Gonzaga, you see that a lot of these teams don't have the sufficient big man to match up down low. And I think this is one that UConn might have a little bit of advantage on Gonzaga. And with the total being so high, I think that this one actually does go over because of the fact that Gonzaga runs that fast pace. And we saw yesterday with UCLA that UCLA has that elite defense as well. But that game still went way high, soared over. I had the under in that game last night. So a little disappointing with how that game ended. It was a lot of fouls the last 2 minutes, constant fouls. So, but I like UConn in the over in this one. More confident in UConn than I am the over, though.
Kyle?
So I couldn't bet an under in that game. I know that.
Yeah.
Gonzaga unders. I think I've bet 2 unders with Gonzaga this year. And I've had a really good year, but I've lost both of those. And I've watched the game going, why am I doing this to myself? Gonzaga unders are not fun at all. I had the Gonzaga under against TCU where they scored 13 points in the last 15 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever it was, with the ridiculous speed on Gonzaga. Certainly, that one crept over the total. Then last night it goes over the total despite UCLA going 12 minutes in the second half without making a shot from the floor. Just a weird game, but it was so. I think that showed a lot that in the first half UCLA got every shot that they wanted. I mean, they were getting very easy looks. Gonzaga's defense is not very good, and I think UConn can take advantage of that. Now, as a side, I would definitely take UConn if I had to bet this side straight at -2. I do have Gonzaga as a 40-1 future to win it all, so I'm going to ask you guys your thoughts on this. I haven't hedged anything on it yet. I don't love hedging this early, but I kind of think UConn's the toughest matchup for Gonzaga here the rest of the way. I think you could argue that Gonzaga matches up better against anybody else. I mean, they already beat Alabama in Alabama. I think they would have a real shot against Houston as well. UConn's playing great basketball right now. I don't want to bet against UConn. I agree with Dylan. I think the over is probably the right play here. People see that high of a number and they say, man, that's really high for an NCAA tournament game. I think it's high for a good reason. I think probably my favorite bet there would be the over. But I think UConn's probably a good side as well. Kiev, Dylan, you got any thoughts on having a future at 40-1 here at this point? Do you just let it ride, or are you betting something here on UConn?
I wish I knew what fishing crew you're going to get. If it's the same one against UCLA, you'll have plenty of live opportunities to hedge that. But I have some bad news for your future and my bracket. First of all, I'm gonna give myself a humble brag here. Maybe not even that humble. I'm in second place in the bracket challenge, but I have Gonzaga winning it all. So I'm almost in the same kind of boat as Kyle. There's about 117 brackets, so I unfortunately don't like Gonzaga in this game, and it's tough. But I'm gonna have to make a bet on UConn. And there's reasons why. And just like you said, Dylan, I mean, there's just so many metric advantages for UConn here. UConn is UCLA without the injuries at this point. I mean, that's really what they are. They're so powerful, and they can match up easily down low with Timmy. And even though Gonzaga's guards are good, they're not great for penetrating. They're hoisting up some threes, hoping to get some rebounds, but against a mad rebounding team like UConn, they're just going to get out athleted. I kind of look at UConn as like Alabama in a way, with the athletes there and how good of a team that they are. If you see this on Haslametrics, there is no matchup advantages for Gonzaga minus fast break points. Maybe you're right here. Second chance points. Look at the rebounding with UConn, 4th in the nation to 99th on defense on Gonzaga. Gonzaga's first in the nation on that, but look at the conference they play in, and UConn's 17th on defense. So that's going to be more advantage for UConn. 3-point percentage, UConn's 33rd, field goal percentage, 22nd, near proximity, 14th, and Timmy can get banged up down low. UConn's the play, and this should be closing at 3, in my opinion. It should be closing at 3.5. I played UConn for a decent size bet at 2.5 stars. So you have agreement with me on that one, guys. unfortunately for my bracket in your future, Kyle. I would say, maybe do a tiny hedge now and then maybe an in-game hedge, but it's up to you because you're already pretty late in the game, at least with your 40-1.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good number to have. It's tough when you get to this point. I will say too, people kind of ask me about futures here lately. At this point, I think I would just do a money line rollover for the games that are left if you like a certain team, because the futures probably have more juice. The books holding quite a bit from that. It also is a bit tricky when you get to this point saying, when do I hedge, because they're going to be underdogs multiple times here. I think I am going to hedge at least somewhat in a game like this, because Timmy's been pushing around the guys that he's been defended by. He's not going to push around Sunoco. That guy is massive. Timmy will score his points, but I think Sunoco will get a lot of offensive rebounds. UConn will get plenty of second chances here. And I just don't see Gonzaga's defense getting many stops.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to the final game then. Kansas State versus Florida Atlantic. Man, I watched some replays of this FAU Tennessee game, and Tennessee's just bullying them when the refs aren't looking, just taking cheap shots, throwing elbows like they did against Duke. And that's the reason they won. They out-roughed Duke, in my opinion, just got that accrue that wasn't blowing the whistle. Duke had 7 total free throws in that game. Not so sad to see Rick Barnes drop out here. He burned me when I tried that first game to bet him as a favorite, and then I'm all over Duke, went to the great line value, -2.5 to -4, and I lose. And I'm like, Rick Barnes, I'm just staying away from this game. And Rick Barnes, without fail, lost. Does that make Florida Atlantic good? Yeah, it makes them good. Does it make them great? I don't know. The problem that I have with this game is that they kind of match up well to what Kansas State matches up well with Florida Atlantic for what they do well. Their guard play, their 3-point, that's where they can play defense. Kansas State can't play interior defense, but Florida Atlantic only has really one big guy down low, and if he kind of gets taken out a little bit, I think that Kansas State can kind of outrun this team. Now, I don't think that this is going to stay at 2. I think this is going to move towards pick'em. I think most of the efficiency sites do have Florida Atlantic the better team, but I'm waiting on this because I might be making a play on Kansas State just based upon their guard play. Obviously, Noel is fantastic. Now, he did roll his ankle a little bit. I'm guessing it hurt him today, but he was enough to come back in the game for enough time to make me feel like he's going to be okay. The way they played against Michigan State was fantastic. Can they keep this up? Against Florida Atlantic, I expect them to. And I think their guard play matches up extremely well. It's hard to judge Florida Atlantic, but I'll tell you this. I was wrong about Conference USA. This is a fantastic conference. And, teams like North Texas, teams like UAB right now in the NIT tournament are doing absolutely fantastic. But I'm probably going to be a player on Kansas State. Let's see if there's some disagreement. Kyle.
I don't know what side to bet in a game like this, Kiev. I love those unders at Madison Square Garden, but I can't take an under in this game. I think the pace will be extremely fast. You're just counting on them missing shots. Kansas State wasn't bothered by the background at Madison Square Garden last night, that's for sure. I think what's kind of interesting in this matchup is that Kansas State's first in the country in cutting action on offense. So a lot of backdoor cuts. We saw them. I love that play where they acted like there was miscommunication from the sideline.
Yeah.
That was so great.
What's going on?
Alley-oop, the reverse alley-oop, that was wonderful.
That was the best play of the night. Fantastic stuff. And then after the game, they're kind of like, well, I won't confirm whether that was on purpose or not. It's like, well, it's pretty clear. I mean, but Kansas State's going to do a lot of that. Florida Atlantic has not been good at defending cutting action, and nobody in Conference USA did that hardly at all. So I think that'll be interesting. Noel's injury is kind of the question mark here. As we know, sprained ankles are usually worse the next day or 2 days after than they are immediately. He's getting great care, I'm sure, right now. I think he'll be okay. He might be less than 100%. The problem with trusting Florida Atlantic too much in a game like this, and Kiev, reel me in if I get too fired up on this, but Rick Barnes sucks so much that that Tennessee was going to blow this at some point. So are we really going to give Florida Atlantic too much credit? Every single year, I'm just anybody watching this right now, just assume that about the time everybody says Tennessee is going to do really well in the tournament, they're going to lose. I mean, Rick Barnes can't get his teams deep in the tournament. He's 3-15 against the spread his last 18 games. Heard so many people say, look how they played against Duke. Tennessee's going to the Final Four. And here they are the next game. The real Tennessee shows up. I agree with Kiev, too. How Tennessee plays defense, the fact that somebody had 7 free throws against them, pretty bad look for the officiating crew. I mean, they got to have a lot of fouls and plenty of free throws when you're playing against Tennessee. Florida Atlantic, a fun team to root for. May is a good coach. I think this is a good coaching matchup. Tang has done a tremendous job for Kansas State. I love his intensity, his positivity. I would be inclined to bet Kansas State here. I can't bet overs at Madison Square Garden based on the numbers that I see long term, but I wouldn't want to bet the under either.
All right, Dylan, what do you have on this one?
Some good points there for sure. And that alley-oop, unreal. I guess in the interview they were saying that he was before he was talking to Isaiah Thomas, because Isaiah Thomas was rooting for Michigan State, and he told him, watch this, and then they started running the play when they were like faking the thing. So like it was definitely planned, 100% planned. But no, I lean the same way, because when you look at Kansas State, they definitely like to run up and down the court, and based on their previous matchups, well, not their previous matchups, but with FAU. I almost said FDU. They played a lot of defensive strong teams. And if you look at their matchup with FDU, that was their highest scoring game in March Madness. So I think that if FDU is able to put up 70 on them, I think Kansas State's going to be able to put up more than that, especially with the higher pace. So I like Kansas State to cover in that one. And I actually do like the over in that one as well, because of the fact that all of these games with FAU have been going way under, it seems like. And I think this is going to be the complete opposite. High scoring, Kansas State scores 80 on them, something like that. So that's what I like.
As a follow-up on that here real quick, Kiev, I want to say that the playing Tennessee to going and playing Kansas State, just night and day difference. So I could definitely understand thinking the pace will be so quick. And this game could, if they're making shots, this could be another one of those games in the 80s, certainly.
Yeah, all agreement here. And, you know, it's going to be a great game to watch, though. I think the fans are going to be rooting split, because Noel's from New York, and a couple of those guys from Kansas State is from New York, and I think that helped them against Michigan State. But also, everyone likes the Cinderella, so you're going to get some FAU fans there for sure. So it's going to be interesting to see that. All these games are going to be absolutely wonderful. Normally do a most likely dog to win outright, but I mean, can we just agree? If anything, we're picking San Diego State here. I mean, why even bother go through it? I'm not even sure if I'm going to bet them on the money line, but would be the one I would do.
Yeah,
Fair?
I would agree. I think it's tough. I actually think I kind of lean towards some of these favorites. And I mean, at the same time, if you think you're going to take Princeton plus 10, like I said, I think that's a tough money line to take. San Diego State, I don't think they're going to win outright, but I think the price, plus 310 is at least worth the risk there.
Yeah, worth a small look in that. So we'll agree with that, guys. Anything else before we go?
I'm a little torn on this Alabama-San Diego State game because, I'm taking San Diego State. I'm from San Diego, so a little biased on that, but I do like San Diego State to cover. But I have a future on San Diego State to win the whole thing, which I don't think is going to happen. And I also have a future on Alabama, so it's a little tough. It's like, is it a win-win? Probably.
Okay.
But speaking of the futures, that's why I had to bring it up, because I have a future on UConn too. Got them at 33-1 in December, so that one's looking good. And then a little chaotic is I took Xavier 100-1 in November. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I had to sprinkle it because they're looking really good to start the season. So a few of these futures are going to die today, which I hate to say, but it's going to happen.
As long as one lives out to the final game, Dill. And the Tatis jersey did throw it off, that showed that you were from San Diego to me. So
oh yeah.
Got to see that sticking right out. All right. Well, where can our listeners and viewers get your great information, Dylan?
Post all my plays on my Twitter account, and then I also post them earlier for free on my Black Book Sports account, which is essentially just a site where I post all my plays with some write-ups, usually the night before the game. So I'll be posting my plays out here on Twitter in the next few hours, but they're already out there on my Black Book site. So,
Kyle, the 13-1 run. How about you, my man?
Yeah, you can check out my work at huntersportspicks.com. Free picks newsletter. I'll be sending one of those out here for the weekend as well. The free picks haven't done well lately. The client plays have done amazing. I know I can get some grief from that sometimes. Sometimes it flips. The free plays do amazing. The client plays do poorly. As it is, it's been a very good run here in general. 39-11 in the last 50. So definitely love being on that kind of streak this time of the year. And try to finish it out strong. There won't be too many more plays left in college basketball. Everybody enjoy what's left. There's not that many games left in college basketball this year. Hopefully we can get some dramatic finishes again. You can follow me over on Twitter also at Kyle Hunter Picks.
All right. And check me out at theoddsbreakers.com. Went 5-0 yesterday. Hoping for another big day today. The first week was very medium for me. It was a lot of half-point losses for me, but it wasn't, nothing was bad. It was all very, 500-ish. So I'm really happy to have that 5-0 day yesterday. But, the plays are there. All you got to do is check them out. And, we also do baseball and UFC. As you can see, we're going to a baseball game soon. So I want to thank everybody for chiming in, Michael, Jeffrey, and everybody else watching this. If you have any questions, feel free to tweet us at the Oddsbreakers, tweet Dylan at Dilberto's Picks, tweet Kyle at Kyle Hunter Picks. Everyone have a great rest of your week and go get some winners.
Thank you for watching Better Odds Sports Betting.